Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Angel Face Magic Hour. We're here on the podcast and we have a special guest. I'm very excited. We're here with Feather. Feather, I met at the spa that I work at, Bliss, and she does massage and facials, but now she's doing a lot more energy work and healing and teaching. And I just think she's a very interesting person. So I asked her to come on the podcast. But I'd like to just have you briefly introduce yourself, who you are, where you're located, and a little bit about your practice.
Well, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be on here with you. Thank you for asking.
Yes, thank you for
Um,
coming.
yeah, so my name is Feather. I'm located in Sebastopol, and currently I am sharing a couple of different styles of energy healing. The main one being Kundalini Bodywork, and also spinal energetics. So, what these modalities really are is kind of blending a lot of different modalities together to bring harmony and balance to the body. And so, yeah, it's been a fun journey to get here. Um, you met me when I was doing aesthetics, so yeah, I've become a massage therapist. I'm an esthetician, a Reiki master. I do so many different things. I'm also a health coach, an integrative nutrition health coach. I'm also an Ayurvedic yoga teacher. So I've studied extensively Ayurveda and Ayurvedic self-care. I'm also a Tao Tantric arts facilitator for women, which is one of my favorite things to do. And really, what is kind of what enriches the Kundalini bodywork as well. I teach Qigong, Tao Tantric Qigong, um, and I
Yeah, you
do
have quite
energy
the
healing.
resume.
So I'm also a somatic erotic educator. So I find the somatic aspect of my work really comes from that training and that understanding of how to access the somatic part of our experience, which I think is really important with energy healing. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. And you have a lot of different types of training. So it's like interesting to bring all those things together. And I got to do a session with you and it was very
Mm.
interesting. So different from, it's still energy healing, but it's very different from Reiki because it's a lot more like physical, like your body will move and shift. And that can definitely happen in a Reiki session, but it's not as common for your body to like move and shift. And so it was very interesting. And I definitely felt like a big shift in my lower back and just like pain and stuff. So I think it's something
Beautiful.
interesting that people can explore. But I just want to have you kind of explain a little bit about some of those modalities, and then we'll talk a little bit, as I
Mhm.
mentioned to you earlier, we'll talk a little bit about how you got to all this work that you're doing
Mhm.
now. But
Yeah.
I don't know if there's one you want to start first with, but I'd love to hear just your kind of like explanation for people wondering about the Kundalini practice,
Mhm.
as well as just like a kind of short explanation of what is Tantra, because that's
Yeah.
such a broad subject, but just so people can kind of get an idea of what that is and what it means for you in your practice. So I
Okay.
don't know where you want to start, but
Yeah. So, well, let's start with the Kundalini bodywork and the spinal energetics. So, I'm currently blending these two modalities into a modality called somatic energetic healing. And what's really beautiful about it is with the Kundalini bodywork, we're working with the chakras, we're working with emotional release, we are accessing Kundalini. We're not necessarily waking up Kundalini or helping Kundalini to rise, but what essentially the energy healing is doing is clearing the pathway so that when Kundalini wants to rise, it rises with ease. Um, the one thing that holds us back from our creative expression and our erotic aliveness is the ways that we have identified with emotions, with our past, with what we've been through and where we've come from. You know, all the things that we've been through in our life, we tend to hold on to. And it's those things that inhibit our essence, our aliveness, our bliss, to truly awaken in our body. And so the Kundalini Bodywork is really about clearing those pathways, allowing the emotion to come up and out of the body, to feel into where we hold back, where we withhold, where we repress or repress our energy. And it's an opportunity to liberate those channels. And so, again, like you shared, it's not just a modality where you lay there and receive, it's actually an opportunity for you to completely surrender the need to intellectualize the control of the mind, and let the mind come into full service of the body. And when we do this, the body's natural response is to come back into harmony. And so as I bring chi and prana into the field, it gives the body enough energy to begin to unravel and discharge the stress, the holding patterns, the tension, the emotions, the things that we're always like holding ourselves together. It really gives the body a chance to recalibrate. And so there can be trembling, there can be undulations in the spine. Very few people will lay still on my table because the body is just discharging all of the repressed energy. And when we do this, for some people, it can be like, whoa, that seems like it would be way intense, right? Like,
I was just gonna
I don't
say
even,
it's not as scary as that might sound to some people.
right. Because, yeah, I mean, like so many of us hold back and repress so much that we're like, oh, what's going to come up, right? But the cool thing about our beings and our body is that in a session, nothing will happen that is beyond our control or beyond our capacity, right? And so, what's neat about it is I like to kind of compare it to a medicine journey in a sense, where when you take a plant medicine, you can go into these places of feeling where your blocked energy is and allow the emotion to come up and out. And it's almost like the medicine, you have to surrender to the medicine, and then it can last a certain amount of time that you really don't have control over. Well, with this, you can go into those heightened places, those elevated places, but open your eyes and completely come back into the moment. So it's not like you don't have control. It's not like as an emotion comes up, you completely surrender and you aren't able to control it, right? So in the world of somatics, there's a term called titration, and it means slow drips over time. And so, generally, in a session with me, the first session is just really getting to kind of feel where those places are and feel into what that surrendering is. Because you're not surrendering to me as a practitioner, you're really surrendering to the way that your body wants to unravel and find its own alignment and its own harmony. And it happens over time. And so, yeah, it's not, it can be a very big experience if that's what you're ready for. And generally, people who are ready for that, that happens. And then, you know, for people who are like, I don't think I'm ready for a big cathartic thing, it can just be a very simple, slow process that feels really nourishing and can happen over time. So, you are in complete control of the amount of release and of opening that occurs during a session. And so, with the sessions, I always like to let people know that they do build on themselves. The first session is kind of like, ooh, what's she going to do? What am I going to feel? What's going to come up? And so, we tend to really kind of be a little bit more in our heads.
Yeah.
Whereas this, yeah, right? So, the second session is like, oh, I know what's going to happen. I trust her. So, you allow yourself to go a little deeper. And then generally by the third session, you've created enough of a relationship that you feel really held And then it's just you being able to surrender more and more to your own process. And that process is so powerful because really what it is bringing the mind in service to the body. It's really allowing the mind body connection to come together and to be restored. Because so many, almost all of us have been socialized out of our connection to our body. And especially for women, I mean, gosh, our culture values so much the mind. And literally, so many of us don't even feel safe in our bodies. And so I find that this healing is very revolutionary because it's really learning to trust your body again. And I feel like this is what energy healing is all about because energy speaks to us through sensation, through emotion, by hearing things, feeling things, being able to understand the multidimensionality of our human experience, right? We have to be in the body, trusting that deeper knowing that's in our bones, that's in our tissues, right? Um, so, and some energy healing really is more upper chakras, more like spiritual and out here, which is beautiful and can be very nourishing. But this modality in particular is very body based and really coming back home to our humanity and our divinity. It's like merging the spiritual, beautiful upper chakras with our denser lower chakras and beginning to really learn what it means to harmonize the denser, more dark aspects of ourselves. And this is really where Tantra comes in,
Yeah. I think too,
right?
like, with the energy healing, like if we're not able to access our full physical self, which a lot of people don't, like it took me, I feel like until I discovered Reiki, I was like just like floating from my heart up, like
Mm,
just that's about it. But
yeah,
we have to be able to come all the way inside of our body for us to like really experience it. So I feel like this is a way for people to access it in in a different capacity.
definitely, definitely. And it's like living from the heart up's really beautiful, and I think a lot of people are happy there. But Tantra brings us into our root. And it brings us into where we tend to suppress and repress all the emotions, all the feelings that we don't feel safe, or the parts of ourselves that we don't love. We kind of suppress and put it down into our pelvic region. And so through somatic energetic healing, it's almost like we get to go into those depths and we don't have to process it, go through it, like remember the story or what exactly it is. We can just feel into that emotional holding or the energy itself and let it just come up and move through the body. So a lot of my clients say, within a 90-minute session, it feels like they've just done 3 years of therapy because it's going to where the pattern has rooted in the body. And it's like we're taking those roots and liberating them so that there can be more spaciousness for fresh energy to come in, um, to help us to evolve as human beings, right? Like that's
Yeah.
kind of the main focus of the work is like in Tantra, it's all about remembering that we are blissful, radiant beings, and that even though life is hard and there's pain and there is struggle and obstacles that we have to navigate, that if we can come into a space where we understand that everything is here to teach us, everything is here to help us grow, we actually liberate ourselves from holding on to the pain or the suffering and we get to experience it, allow it to move through us, and then essentially allow us to elevate because we've learned through pain or we've learned through difficulty, right? So that's in essence why Tantra and Kundalini Bodywork, these two things really go together so beautifully, because we're really bringing in, once we clear the channels, we bring in a state of non duality, meaning that we see all of existence as one wholeness, and there is no right or wrong or good or bad. There's just the experience and how we relate to that experience and what we learn through that experience, knowing that we are these eternal, beautiful beings, right? So, if that makes any sense.
It makes sense to me.
Good.
For anyone who doesn't know, like, just the basis of what is Kundalini, like the
Oh, yeah.
energy, like that word, I feel like people
Hmm.
hear that, there's Kundalini yoga, there's something like this where you're working with the Kundalini, but
Hmm.
how would you just
Yeah.
kind of explain that to someone who's never heard that?
Yeah. So the most beautiful way that I can explain it is that when the goddess decided to create the universe, it was through her exhale. So she inhaled and she had this spark of inspiration. And as she exhaled, she created the universe. And within the universe, she hid herself in every particle, meaning that she hid herself in all of us. So Kundalini, I think, is from what my understanding is, and I'm not saying that I know anything, but from my own experience,
Yeah, we're not looking for
Kundalini.
a scientific definition or anything.
Okay, good. Yeah, so it's the spark of aliveness that comes into a fetus when the heart starts to beat. Okay? No one can really understand this. No one knows why it happens, but there is this spark of aliveness. And I feel like that is Kundalini. That is Shakti. That is the goddess coming in, creating a rhythmic, cyclical pattern within the body that begins to pump the blood, that begins to nourish the organs, that begins to grow the beautiful body. And so Shakti is flowing through us all the time. She is in everything. Kundalini Shakti, she is the taste, the touch, the texture, the experience, the emotion. She is the color, the just like the life that we see. This is Kundalini Shakti, right? And then there's a few different phases that we get to experience her. So that first phase is just realizing like Shakti energy, life force is in everything. And then to say a Kundalini awakening is kind of a misnomer because Kundalini is always awake. She's always around us. And yet there is a specific expression of her that they say resides down at the base of our spine. And at certain moments, when there is a harmony that arises within the body, she actually wakes up and rises through the spine. And this is what a lot of people are talking about when they have a Kundalini awakening or a Kundalini rising. And this is kind of like a spontaneous lightning bolt of energy that rises up through the spine. Mine wasn't so much a lightning bolt, but it was definitely an exuberant, a rising energy. And in this form of Kundalini, she is in her evolutionary form, and she is known as Prana Shakti or Prana Kundalini. And so,
Life force.
this life force that lives at the base of our spine really is spiritual fuel. It's meant to be this force of remembrance that rises within our spinal column. And as it rises, it comes through each one of the chakras. And as it comes to the third eye, to the Ajna chakra, it merges with Shiva. So Shakti is more feminine, Kundalini is more feminine energy. And as she rises through the spine, she meets Shiva, which is the masculine energy, which is consciousness. And as this happens, then you begin to merge in oneness with God, with Goddess, with all that is, not feeling any separation, feeling the oneness with the universe. And this is really where we remember that we are eternal, blissful, radiant beings, and that we really are spiritual beings living in this human body, and that this human body is such a beautiful instrument that we get to play and experience the spectrum of life, right? Through. So so yeah, that's
That's
my
beautiful. I love
explanation
that.
of Kundalini. Um, some people, so when this happens though, when she rises, if we haven't cleared the pathways, or if we've identified ourselves with our trauma, our pain, if we identify ourselves with our emotional experiences, and we have repressed this energy, and we have a dense uh, like shadow, or we've not dealt with certain things, what this evolutionary form of kundalini, this prana, is going to bump up against those things. And that's why some people say it's dangerous. Some people go into psychosis, because all of their stuff, I don't know, I want to say shit, but I don't know if you say
No,
that
you
on your
can, you can,
podcast.
you can. Yeah.
Okay, all the shit get all the stuff that you withhold or you suppress, I mean, it gets amplified, right? And so it can kind of bring in too much, um, you know, it makes you process things. It's helping you remember. It's like, oh, the reason why you don't believe you're valid or beautiful or deserving is because of this. And so then it amplifies those feelings, and it can be really intense. And so that's why Kundalini Bodywork, I think, is so powerful, because there's so many of us that are longing for that deeper connection to spirit, and know that there is so much more to our physical body than just the physical form. Like, there's layers to us, and there's this multi-dimensional experience that we can have. But to be able to understand those experiences and to go there, we have to move through the shadow. We have to feel everything, and we have to realize and remember that we're not that. We're not what we've been through. We're not our trauma. We're not the emotions that move through us. We are actually these powerful, radiant beings that are continuously blossoming in one way or another. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think of it like water too, like this energy just flowing through us. But like if we have all of these blocks, these things in the way, it's gonna pool and then flood, and it doesn't work the way it should. Like it doesn't have the
Mhm.
pathways, as you say, to go through all the way up.
Yeah,
It gets stuck. So
exactly.
that's why things like energy work, and it doesn't have to be only through like a healing session. It could be things you do for yourself, and
Oh,
breath work and
yes.
different practices like the qigong and the things that you teach. But
Yeah.
having some way to access those blocks and be able to identify, so then you can see, okay, these are the emotions that are holding me back. And it's not
Mhm.
like they'll go away in like one
No.
session, one day. Like one time you identify it, it's like things come up and again. So I think, I don't know about Tantra, but th I feel like that's kind of the whole point, is being able to still experience life, even if things are not always positive.
Right.
Tell me
Yeah,
if that's right.
yeah, Tantra is really the practice of unifying like this human experience and our spiritual experience. It's all about being in the body,
Yeah.
and you've got the right hand tantra, the left hand tantra, white tantra, red tantra. Um, I think the main premise of tantra is that life is sacred no matter what is happening. And I think a lot of times the reason why in the West we've embraced the sexual aspect of it is because our sexuality is the largest shadow of humanity that we deal with. Like, there's so much distortion and misunderstanding, and just disconnection around what the truth of our sexuality is. And so I think in the West here, we've really kind of emphasized the sexual part because it's the foundation of where we come from. But when you go into like classical tantra, it really is learning how to harmonize the denser, lower energies in the body, the fear, the guilt, the shame, um, anger, all like the more lower vibration, and I just mean like denser energy. It's learning how to harmonize with those. It's like, yeah, sometimes I do get angry and sometimes I'm really fearful, and it's not denying these aspects of ourselves, but how can we fully embrace all of who we are? And so we really, like with classical Tantra, you work to open the root. You begin to break apart that fear of not being supported, of not being part of the clan or belonging, and begin to really hold yourself as you feel these things and harmonize them, so then the energy isn't so dense. And then you learn how to keep building that energy to bring it up through the chakras. So yeah, it's the classical tantra is all energy work. It's all meditation, breath work, learning how to soften through your root, through your perineum, merging with the earth, breaking the earth so that you can let the truth of your experience be fully felt, and no matter what it is, and love it into that wholeness. Then we bring it up through the fire of the solar plexus where it's purified, then brought into the heart and brought up into the upper chakras, where then we can connect with divine spirit. And yeah, once you get there, that's like the bliss. That's the um, I can't remember the name right now, but just like that pure
The intuition.
consciousness. Yeah, it's having that pure channel to spirit. So yeah, classical tantra, I'm super in love with it. It's such a powerful path of awakening. Um, and then, going into the sexual practices are just so sweet. And it's really about deep intimacy and how can we truly be with one another, holding ourselves, but also opening with the depth of love and presence with another. You know, it's profound path, I think, for people.
Do
Yeah.
you find that there's like common blockages and stuff that people will come to the practice with?
Yeah. Most of us have blocked roots, you know. We don't even really know, especially for women. It's like we want to receive, we want to be able to be receptive beings, but I think because of patriarchy and because of the way that the feminine has been devalued and distorted throughout history, we have these imprints within ourselves. And so for many of us, there's blocks around our root, our sacral chakra. I mean, all of them, but throat is a big one. Throat, sacral, and root um, tend to be always kind of where I find myself focusing with a lot of people, because it's only through truly knowing that we're safe in this body, that we're safe here on the planet. I mean, that's kind of a big deal at this time because of everything that's happening. Um, but like really feeling into, I am an eternal being. I am completely supported. Like to feel that and to open the root and feel that connection to the earth can feel just like the most amazing thing ever. And it's not that easy,
No.
you So it's like really my joy of my work is bringing people into that place of like connection. And this is where the somatic aspect comes in, because it's really like widening our capacity to go slow, to soften, and actually feel what it is to be grounded, to actually merge with the earth, opening through the base of our pelvis, softening through our tailbone, and actually feeling ourselves supported. Like,
It's
that's just,
uncomfortable, I think, for people. Like for me, like when I first started doing meditations, like it'd be those types of meditations that's like, imagine there's roots coming out. I'm like, "Ugh, that's disgusting." Like I had like such an aversion to it. I just wanted to be like floating. Like, and
Right.
so I feel like it takes a lot for people to get to a point where they can even want
Yeah,
to explore that. But I feel like
totally.
something like this is so helpful because it's not, I think we really have to have movement, like whether it's this or like dancing or yoga or something, but like some
Hmm.
kind of movement in conjunction with this spiritual practice. Because I feel like there's so many people, yeah, who get stuck in the mind and then it's scary to go down to, yeah, like the root, the
Yeah.
sacral. And I see those same issues with people in terms of psychic work and also with physical body. It's like always the lower back, shoulders for women that where they have pain. And it's like
Mm.
I think men, they hold pain in different ways, but it's kind of interesting to see how those things line up with, yeah, like our energy centers and what that symbolizes. And like I think that's a helpful tool for people to access. Like for me, I'm having all this jaw pain and I'm like, okay, what is connected to that? Like, and how can I examine further? Because it's like
Yeah.
it's never comes from nothing.
No. No, I truly believe that every physical imbalance or disharmony has a energetic emotional root. So,
Any
yeah, I
any
mean,
tips
there's,
for jaw pain?
ooh, sounding, for you, sounding.
Like making noise?
Ah, taking your jaw, massaging it. Even in medical qigong, it would be taking your fingertips and feeling as if your fingertips extended another fingertip width and combing through the jaw, letting
Mm.
go of maybe times where you were muzzled. I mean, when we go back through lifetimes, right, of being female or of our soul, if we were ever female, it's been such a different experience than it is now, especially for us who are more spiritual, so that witch wound is there. And I've always find like around the throat or the jaw, these things can arise because it's old stories around where there was trauma or where you couldn't talk, you couldn't express yourself, so you withheld, right? It can also be a stress response of clenching the jaw, of like,
Yeah.
so softening, like combing through, like having a bowl of water or a candle, and you just take it,
I'm gonna do
bring
that
it,
after this.
yeah. And then sound, ah, and playing with sound, making sounds that you don't normally make, that can feel uncomfortable because it may bring up an emotion that you're holding there, right? We all get in like comfort zones with certain ways of releasing, especially
Yeah.
like as healers, but we have to remember that like we have to try and evoke maybe something that we are not comfortable with. And so instead of just like, ah, it could be, ah, and you may feel it through your whole body. And it might not just be the jaw, but there can be a connection
Yeah,
to
I
the
feel like that's definitely in
movement,
my shoulder. Well, and I
right?
know like and the hips are very much connected to our jaw as well. So
Yeah.
I feel like it is for me like past life stuff keeps coming up. And also I feel like in this life, like
No, for
just
sure.
showing up for myself and things like that. But
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
Right?
Not
There's so
fun,
many.
but there's ways to work through it.
Well, and everything that we experience is an opportunity for us to learn more and to grow. So, what are you learning through your jaw? And maybe that's why it just keeps flaring up, or if there's something there, it's like wanting you to remember something. So, like sitting with it, like, what are you learning right now about it? What you've already know, what you've done so far, and treating yourself. Like, it's an opportunity for you to continue to learn and to liberate more energy. So,
Yeah, I think so
yeah,
too.
yeah.
But yeah.
And with the movement too, that's the very feminine expression. So for a lot of people, when they learn meditation, they learn to sit and to be
Hmm.
still and to go into silence and to come into a very masculine, and I'm not meaning gender wise, I just mean when in Tantra, we're not talking about gender when we speak of the masculine, we're speaking of pure consciousness. We're speaking of that observer, that it's almost like the void.
It's
And
like
so
the
when we think of
doing.
meditation, yeah, we're just like meditation is like, you go into spaciousness, you go into that pure masculine space, and that's actually a very advanced practice. Like, so for many of us, that does not feel comfortable because there's so much inside of us that we have not dealt with. And so the movement, like when I go into meditation, I'm like, like
Yeah,
doing
it's
all the
important to move.
things to like get it to move through, because then once I allow it to come through, then that state of stillness and presence and being able to like mm, grasp and touch the void within me, the nothingness and the everythingness, is a lot easier. So that's why I love this modality as well. It's the movement, it's the feminine aspect, it's that the Shakti, the aliveness in the body that we're really connecting to make to allow that aliveness to flow through with ease, so that we can be expressive, so that we can feel the joy and the bliss, and remember that it's a blessing to be here in this human body at this time.
Yeah. I last month I took this class about Isis with Daily Little, who is my Reiki teacher, who's been on the
Oh
podcast
yeah.
if people want to listen to that. But we did a dance practice in it where we like connected with Isis and you like close your eyes and you do all this dancing. And then so I've been doing that. Um and it's been really interesting. And I think there's so many different ways that we can connect, whether it's like you're intentionally trying to connect with a specific energy or not, but like connecting with your own energy, moving it through rather than it being so, yeah, like you said, it's this masculine energy. Yeah, in terms of like you're trying so hard.
Mm,
Eventually, you don't have to try. You can just go into meditation and you're in there. But like you say, that's hard. It's not like you can just do that after one meditation. So
yeah.
it can feel very difficult. And I feel like something like that should be joyous and fun and blissful, like you said. Like, so having some kind of physical movement, I think is essential.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, let's get into, I want to just ask you some questions and kind of get
Okay.
into a little bit about how you got into these practices. So I
Hmm.
know that you before this were doing massage and facials, but I just want to hear a little bit about your trajectory. And we can start at the very beginning where you grew up, or if there's a specific point in time you feel
Yeah.
that impacted kind of your journey to get into searching and trying to find something to help you connect. And then obviously now you're helping
Mm,
others.
yeah. Well, since the time I was born, I have been a spiritual person my whole life. Um, if my life could just be ritual and ceremony, I think I'd be really happy. And it's always been there. So, from a young age, my family was very Christian, and so it was Jesus. And then mid-teens, I really started questioning, like, well, is there only one truth? I don't believe there's just one truth. And I started exploring other religions and practices and found Wicca. And so decided there for a while that I was a witch, because it just felt so right to honor the seasons, to feel the energies of the crystals and the plants, and to be able to heal with my hands. And it's really through that journey of moving from a Christian into a witch that I found Reiki. And so I became a Reiki master in my early 20s when I turned 20. It was like 2000, I think it was. And I was doing Reiki for a few years, and or during that time, I also became a massage therapist because I felt like the two of them went together. So I did massage for a long time, taught Reiki for a long time, and felt like, the massage was a lot of work. And so I was inspired to become an esthetician because then I could still do the Reiki, I could still do massage, but not have to do the whole body. It was a lot lighter on my body. And it was through becoming an esthetician. I'm a naturopathic esthetician. So there was a lot of nutrition and holistic skincare that I learned through that program, which really inspired me then to become a health coach because it's one thing to work topically with the body, it's another thing to work internally through diet. So, and always being kind of health conscious, I was really drawn to that. So I became a health coach. And then through the health coaching, found Ayurveda and always had a strong yoga practice ever since I was probably 16. But found Ayurveda and became an Ayurvedic yoga teacher so that as I was a health coach, I kind of had a focus around Ayurveda. And even through my skincare program, we focused on Ayurvedic skincare. So it all kind of came together. Um, and it was through Ayurveda that I really dove more deeply then into Tantra and found, the not just the sexual Tantra that I had heard about, but the actual classical Tantra, the Kundalini yoga, different ways of accessing spiritual energy within the body. And so started practicing, decided to become a Tao Tantric Qigong or a Tao Tantric facilitator. And then through that became a Qigong teacher. And yeah, and so it's just kind of the
Levels.
evolution came through. And so as I, did the Tao Tantra, where it's a blend of Taoist techniques and tantric techniques, that I had my kundalini rising. I had a full spontaneous activation. And so, of course, through that, there was my whole process of that brought me to my Kundalini Bodywork. And so I studied with my teacher for a year, and then last year got to go study with him for a full month in person. Um, which, yeah, then kind of just brought everything back around to the energy healing. And um, yeah, and then through that, I wanted to work more specifically, even just with the spine, because the Kundalini body works very emotional. It's very much working with the chakras and sexual energy, being life force energy, bringing energy in through the root. It's a pretty big experience. So I wanted to have something too that was maybe not as intense, but more specific to working with people on kind of a clinical level. And that's where the spinal energetics comes in. And I'm currently just finishing up my final aspects of that course. But spinal energetics is like a chiropractic treatment, but with energy. So there's no force, there's no pressure. I use very light touch and use the energy of your body to have the spine kind of adjust itself. And so it's the merging now, where
Mm.
today I'm merging these two modalities so it can be somewhat clinical and deeply therapeutic. Um, but yeah, so, and here I am today.
With the
So,
with the spinal energetics, is it similar to like a cranial sacral kind of thing or no?
no, it's a lot like the Kundalini body work, actually, um, where I just feel through the energy of the spine. I actually do a couple of assessments to see where the tension patterns are being held in the spine, and then there is a certain number of processes that I kind of choose from. So what I see presenting, let's say, through my assessment process, I realize that they have a lot of tension up in their neck, right? And so I'll begin with the neck and I'll just very gently touch the major spine, which is the actual spine, and wait for the spine to kind of let me in energetically. And then I create kind of I wait for resonance, and then I activate the energy, and then bring the energy up through the different layers of the energetic field. And so I'll feel resonance in different layers and then I'll activate there. And what this does is when a person has a strong mind body connection, they'll feel it and they'll have an initial desire to stretch. And so that's the body feeling the energy when it gets activated and then wanting to find its own alignment. So, in essence, it's a lot like the Kundalini Bodywork. You don't just lay there and receive, you actually let the body readjust itself. And so, I've had people have spontaneous clicks and, things coming back into place on their own and not from like
I
a
will you do that for
forced,
me? I wonder if that would help my
yeah,
jaw. I
oh,
feel like that would help
totally,
my jaw.
for
We'll
sure.
talk about it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I just had that thought in my mind. I was like, that sounds like something I need.
yeah. So,
That's so
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so they really go together, you know. And so merging the two has been really fun because it's can still be this very deep cleansing and clearing of the channels, but then also very specific to where tension patterns are being held, where there's been injury, where, so
Do you feel like
it's
when you
fun.
t did this course to learn about this, do you feel like it was easier for you to sense the resonance because you've already done like Reiki and like other things? Like
Yeah.
I feel like for certain more medical people, they might not
Hmm.
be able to tap in like easy,
Yeah.
it might be more difficult.
No, I've been working with energy since I was 16 years old. So all of these modalities come very, very, very easy to me. So and I get it on a very on a quick in a short amount of time. Like it clicks with me. It's just done before. I saw the Kundalini Bodywork. I just knew that that's why I came to the planet. And then when I received it for the first time, I was like, this is what I have been waiting for. Like with the Reiki, doing Reiki for so long, there's a part of me that kind of got bored with it. Like I knew there was more. I knew it. And when I found Kundalini Bodywork, when I found the spinal energetics, I was just like, this is it. This is why I'm here. This is my purpose. Like I know that everything has led me to this point now. It's all coming together. It all plays a role. Um, and yeah, so
You feel like it's like a remembering, like you like
oh,
remember
totally,
it from
100%.
another life or something?
Yeah, for
Because I
sure.
feel like that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Not a doubt in my mind. Yeah. Yeah, when I'm doing my work, I can, see 5 people in one day and not feel depleted or tired. I am ecstatic. I feel like I have, you know, I've finally found what I came here to do. So it's amazing.
That's
And
beautiful.
everyone, I haven't had one person yet be like, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Everyone just feels like, wow, that was so beautiful and interesting and different. And they all feel really good. And they feel, it's subtle, but they feel the shifts. And, it can bring up stuff. It can bring up like what we're ready to heal, but we can't go around these things. We have to let them come up and go through it for it to be liberated. And so I just kind of get to be the midwife for that, which is so special.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful. Do you bring in like if you ever like see something that might be helpful in terms of like food or herbs or like all your other knowledge, you bring that forward for clients too?
most definitely. Yeah. So, we only have a certain amount of time. So I really like to kind of dial in on what it is that wants to be transformed or how do my clients want to feel and what's in the way of that so that we can really go to the block, to the place where they're feeling withheld or where they withhold. Um, and with all the Ayurvedic training, I can really look at someone and kind of get a good idea of what their dosha is, and how, so like their doshas are elementally how the elements are playing out in their body. If they're more fiery, if they're more watery, if they're more airy, I can really kind of tune into that. And if it does come up, I always am able to offer dietary suggestions, home care suggestions. I mean, gosh, I have like so many tools to offer to for people to bring home and continue to use after their sessions. So, yeah.
I feel like I don't know if you already do this, but you should do like packages or something where like like coaching, like, but
Ugh,
with the energy so you could help people more
definitely.
through like a longer term thing. But you also teach classes, and if anyone's local to Sonoma County where we live, everything that I'll link Feather's information in the show notes so people can find your Instagram, and you have a website, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your website and all of that.
Yep.
So if people want to like find out more about how to experience this. So with this, is it only in person or do you do it online? How does
So
that work?
I do online sessions as well as in-person sessions. So
So
what's
people
really
can
neat about,
find you.
yeah, energy healing doesn't need to be in the same space. It transcends time and space and can be done over Zoom. So yeah, I do online sessions as well as in person. And I also offer Qigong classes. I teach womb yoga for women. It's a really beautiful practice of really honoring our cycles and the powers of being in a female body. It's a really beautiful meditative practice, not so much focused on asana, although there is some asana. It's mostly kind of like a Qigong practice where we're taking the energy of the womb, meeting it with the heart, and really clearing the pathway between the heart and the womb so that we can use our compassion to fuel our passion and to take our passion to fuel our compassion.
I love
So,
that.
yeah, it's a beautiful practice.
Yeah. So when you're practicing with the healing sessions, I just want to kind of have you talk to us a little bit about your experience because a lot of people listening,
Mm,
as I said to you when we were talking about doing this, a lot of people listening are also intuitives, healers,
mm,
and I feel like it's really important and helpful when you're first getting into those things to kind of just hear about how others experience it. For me, a lot of it is physical, but I'll also be like seeing things, feeling things. It's like
yeah.
multidimensional. So I just want to kind of talk to you about how that is for you. Like when you're working,
Mhm,
how does it feel? You have like an intuitive ability. So it's
mhm.
like, I know that also comes in.
Yeah.
But I'd love to just have you just try to try to explain it. It's hard to explain these things. So I think
Yeah.
it would be helpful for people to hear.
Mhm. Yeah. So, as a practitioner, what I find is really important about this work is that when a client comes to me, they're not surrendering to me. So, if you think about with massage, with chiropractic, with any sort of doctor, with really, and even Reiki, you're kind of giving over your power to the practitioner. Where in this modality, it's the opposite. As a practitioner, my true focus is literally being like a tuning fork. That's kind of how I explain it. And so before a session, I will make sure all of my chakras are open and that I am in a level of coherence with love. I clear my field. I raise my vibration to be in alignment with cosmic forces as well as deeply rooted within the earth. So when the session when my client comes in, there is this already, like, I'm the tuning fork, I'm the resonance that is welcoming their body into a higher state. And then as I start the session, it's really about kind of first feeling where there is depletion, so I can kind of feel dips in the field. I can feel places where my hands are like magnets drawn to different areas. When I do my assessments, that's more of kind of a clinical thing, but it's also showing me where the tension patterns are mostly held in the spine that then kind of validate my more intuitive take on it. And then when I'm bringing in chi and prana, through my qigong practice, I feel the chi all the time. So as I work with the root, I'm really connecting to the earth chi, bringing the earth chi up through my legs, down my arms, and through my hands. And I bring that earth chi in through their root. And sometimes it bounces back into my hand. Sometimes it's just kind of builds up, and I can kind of swirl it and it softens, and then I can feel it coming in through their root, and then I just kind of help it up the spine. A lot of times it'll get stuck, so then I use what is known as tantric healing, where my hands are like magnets. So as a practitioner, I'm never drawing anything into my body that isn't of the earth or the heavens. I'm not like, even as I draw things out of the body, like with magnet with my hands, kind of draw it out into the field. I'm using my high vibrational energy and my connection with spirit to then transform that energy into radiant positive chi. So as emotions come into the field, it's not even like I'm throwing them out or
My
putting
guides
them in the
call it
fire.
usable energy. Recycle it.
Yeah.
Recycle it.
Right? So you transform it, you bring it into a higher vibrational frequency, and then you draw it back into their body. So it's not even like I'm channeling too much earth chi or bringing too much heavenly chi in. It's like once there's enough chi for the body to awaken and do its own unraveling, then I'm just there helping to facilitate what their body wants to do. So I'm just watching, like, I don't necessarily like see colors, but I can tell where there's blockages, just by how their body's moving. And I think that's what's kind of cool about this modality, is that they're not just laying there and I'm witnessing their energy. I'm actually seeing how their energy moves through their body. I'm noticing when there's like not enough much range of motion in their hips, or where there's a jerkiness, or I'm kind of reading their body and just being there as a facilitator to help the flow of chi move through more easily. And so I'll use gentle touch. So if I'm noticing, or I'm feeling too, so sometimes I have my chi up at a higher vibration and I'm tuning in. So I'm very empathic in that way of like, I can feel their emotion. I can feel what's happening for them. And so the more I feel it, the more they feel it. So if I can feel like there's grief, then I kind of bring grief and more grief into the field so that they feel safe to feel more grief, right? Does that make sense? Or if there's anger, I let my anger come up, not theirs. I don't take their anger into my body, but if I intuit that there's like anger that wants to be released, I can call upon my anger, which then gives them, we're very much like human
Reflections.
beings reflection, right? So it's what's cool about this work is I'm not taking on anything. I am in this my experience, and two, if I feel like I'm too much in their field, I always step back and like come back into my own energy, feeling my chi, because literally I could just stand there and not use my hands at all and just beam my own energy, open my chakras, and start being in my own field, which would activate them. That's kind of what, so in CAP, it's called Kundalini Activation Process. Those practitioners are literally bringing high vibrational energy into their field and just transmitting it into the field. And that's what wakes up movement in the body of others. And so,
Mm.
yeah, so it's really cool. It's not like I don't take on anything. I don't feel depleted. I'm not channeling energy through my body like Reiki. Although sometimes I'll bring Reiki into the field. I'll bring in some of the symbols to help if there's something going on, but I'm not constantly channeling, right? I'm like more like, ooh, in this moment, how can I be more full to allow them to be more full? Or if that makes any sense.
It's like I don't know why I just like getting this vision like it's like solar energy like rather than like electricity or something.
Mm,
It's just like going rather
yeah.
than it coming through a circuit. Which,
Right? It's like the
which
radiance. It's like a beaming of, yeah.
that's so interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool because even like with Reiki, I know that there were days where I do, like 3 or 4 Reiki sessions. At the end of the day, I was pretty tired because it was like I was streaming that light through me, and it was just like maintaining that focus and like sending and feeling. It was somewhat exhausting. Whereas with this modality, even though I'm bringing in Reiki and I'm channeling Earth Chi and Heavenly Chi, it's not this constant thing. It's like, ooh, it's more like kind of like a dance for me where I'm just like bringing in the chi, I'm noticing, I'm bringing awareness to different areas, and I'm trusting truly in their body's ability to heal. Like if I can truly bring that energy into the field of like your body knows exactly what to do and I completely trust your body, they can start picking up on that through limbic resonance, right? Through um, just that field of consciousness, that their body's like, oh, I can feel safe here to unravel, I can feel safe here to open and discharge the stress, and I know I'll be held. So yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
pretty
I
awesome.
definitely feel like the idea of that of just being the light
Tuning fork.
beam or whatever, like that's very interesting to me because I think Reiki is very powerful, but I also feel like
Definitely.
a lot of people don't always get the most training that they to fully understand how it's working for them. And that's also just practice because everyone experiences it differently, but I feel like it
Totally.
is easy for us to take on other people's emotions if we don't understand like the boundaries part of that too. So
Oh,
I think with something
100%.
like this, it's like you're already doing that boundary
Hmm.
by just being, like you said, in your own energy.
Yep.
I feel
I'm the
like
tuning
this.
fork, and through my resonance, it invites your body's resonance to match, to rise. So I'm in the process of creating the holistic energetic practitioner program, and the whole first part of it is self-attunement. It's learning, how do I even open my chakras, and how does it feel when my chakras are open? How does it feel when my meridians are flowing? How does it feel when my auric field has holes and isn't strong and buoyant? Like, how does energy even move in my body? Where are my blocks? How can I tell when there's my blocks? Like, I think the first part of being an energy healer is really knowing how energy moves in your body and what is yours,
Yeah,
right? Because how do
that's like
you,
so important, but it's also so hard.
right? It's a practice. And I think it's unfortunate because a lot of energy healers don't know, and then they enmesh with their clients, and then they end up taking on stuff and, end up getting sick. And, like energetic hygiene. Everybody should be doing energetic hygiene practices of clearing their field, clearing through their chakras every day. Like that's why the Qigong, I feel like, is so powerful, is because that's exactly what it's all about. It's learning how to move Qi in the body and to open the channels so that you're not holding on to other people's stuff. And it should be a huge focus. And as practitioners, our personal practice, it reflects our practice.
Yeah, and our ability to like keep sustaining, like you say, you are able to do like 5 sessions a day and not feel exhausted. I feel like it's
Totally.
easy for us to think we can do more than we can, but also when we have that separation point where we can like separate ourselves from others,
Yeah.
it's so helpful because it's so easy, yeah, especially like anything physical, like aesthetics or massage. So
Right.
many people don't talk about that. And so you're just like living
Hmm.
with all these people's energy.
Yeah, at the end of every session, I cut the cords, bonds, ties, and karma that me and the client shared through the session. I allow them to return to their sovereignty as I now call myself back into my sovereignty. And I find that by the
Beautiful.
fifth session, I'm like zooming. I'm like ready to go. Like I've been doing it all day that I'm just like zing, like in the field, you know? Whereas like with massage or aesthetics, by the fifth one, it's just like, oh God, when am I going to be done? Like, I can't wait to be done. So it's way less taxing to be the tuning fork.
That's
Way
so
more
interesting.
enlivening.
I
So
love it. I
that's my
just
job title, actually. I've decided to
the
call it,
tuning fork.
the tuning fork. Like I'm just a human tuning fork.
I love that.
Anyways, yeah.
I experienced some tuning fork stuff this week, and it was really interesting because I have them and I'll use them. Um, but someone used it on me in a different way where they were using like the vibration part to like break stuff up rather than like the
Mm,
sound is what I usually use. And I was like, oh, I want to start bringing this into like a facial. I feel like that would feel so nice because it like
yeah, that's
vibrates
in
on
my
your skin.
yeah, in my training, we learned a full tuning fork facial where we would it's not just the sound, you actually use the tuning forks on the different
Yeah.
points, and then you can actually use them for lymphatic drainage as well. So you're
Oh, I'm
using the
gonna start doing
vibration
that.
and the frequency. Yeah,
That
it's really
sounds
beautiful. You can bring
amazing.
it around the eyes, and yeah, it's magic.
I have these different ones that are also associated with like different parts of the body. So it
Mm.
would be so curious to see like what the lymph ones do in with that technique. I'm gonna try that. I feel like you glitched for a second.
I did glitch for a second. It says my internet is unstable.
Oh, well, we can hear you now.
Okay,
I
good.
was just saying that I'm gonna have to try that with the tuning forks.
Definitely.
Well, before we close out, again, if anyone wants to connect with Feather, all her info will be in the show notes. I encourage you, if you are listening and you are local to Sonoma County, to see her in person. But also, I know anyone listening, we have some international listeners too. You can book online. But I would love like briefly before we close out to talk a little bit about your like more the priestess practices. I know you connect with like
Mm.
Mary Magdalene, and I am very connected to her in spirit. So I don't know a whole lot about it um in terms of that lineage, but I just love to hear like how that experience is and what is her energy, her experience for you.
Oh, this is my favorite question. I don't get to talk about this enough. Um, Mary Magdalene, for me, she is the ultimate guide through the Rose lineage and through the Rose teachings for me. And my practice with her is truly, it goes back to like my main practice of merging my divinity and my humanity. Mary Magdalene, gosh, spoke to me for years and years. And for a while, since I grew up Christian, there was a little trigger there where I was like, no, you're in the Bible. I'm not interested. And she kept coming back, coming back, coming back. And when I lived in Hawaii, she really came to me, and I sat with her for about 4 years pretty consistently. Um, My practices with her, oh, anointing. Like, there's just so many beautiful aspects of her presence in my life when it comes to honoring my feminine body, my sacred sexuality, um, the way I express my sexuality and that power that comes with it, and the merging really of the God and Goddess within me in holy union. Um, she guided me to follow the Venus cycle. So, um, the planet Venus has a very beautiful cycle through the heavens that you can witness. And it's almost more of my guiding point rather other than the moon. Right now, she's in her morning star phase, and she meets with the moon on it's the waning crescent right now. That monthly, you'll see them meet, and it's an activation point. Mary Magdalene was a huge mentor in syncing with the Venus cycle and understanding the lineage of the rose. Venus actually creates what is a five-pointed star, but when you look at it through the sacred geometry, it looks like a five-petaled rose. And
I didn't know
so
that. That's so interesting.
yeah, it's so beautiful. And so I literally every month will go out underneath the moon. When I lived in Hawaii, it was so easy because it's always beautiful there. But now that I live here in Sebastopol, I've actually, the days where Venus meets with the moon so far, I've got to see every moon conjunction. But yeah, these are sacred points um, that activate energy in our body. So through a lot of different people who follow Venus, they link the moon and the and Venus coming together as a chakra activation. But when Mary Magdalene came to me and sat with me in meditation and I synced with the Venus cycle, she told me that there was a new map and it wasn't through the chakras, it was actually through the female sexual organs. That with each moon conjunction, there's a different gateway within the female sexual organs that gets activated. And it is a full womb activation. It's a full yoni, vulva, um, ovarian activation that we get to experience in two different ways. So in her morning star phase, it's a clearing. So as she moves through the sexual organs, the different points, there's different attributes, emotions, experiences that we get to begin to recalibrate and begin to reflect upon and release the old beliefs and the patterns. And this is what Morning Star is all about. She rises as a heroine in the morning sky. And then there's a point in time where we won't see her, and that's known as her underworld phase, which she's actually traveling behind the sun. And during that time, there's still moon conjunctions, we just can't see them, but it is a deep dive into the deeper aspects, the shadow aspects. It's time for us to like really look at, okay, so these are the things I cleared as she was in the morning sky. How am I integrating that now? And then she rises in the evening sky. So in the evening sky phase, she's reclaiming more truths. And it's as she moves through the organs and the gateways, it's a remembrance, it's a reclaiming, it's an activating. And then she goes in front of the sun for a few days. It's not very long. And then will rise in the morning sky again, goes into the underworld, rises as the evening star. So it's just this cycle that continues over and over and over again. And it when you cycle with her, it's just it's deep and it's profound. And yeah, so Mary Magdalene was really one of the most profound guides on that journey. Um, and yeah, I've been following her very consistently now for, gosh, 6 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
And I'll do it for the rest of my life. I love it. I love it so much. it offers such a deep and profound experience, a cyclical experience. You know, as women, we're such cyclical beings, and to be connected to the moon is one thing, but the moon also represents some of that unconscious energy, and it's the grandmother. There's some it's interesting. There's just a lot there, and I think it's really powerful to sync with the moon, but then also to sync with the planet of love and beauty and of creativity and magic that Venus is for a woman. I think it's also really profound. So, so yeah, so Mary Magdalene really brought me into that initiation, and also just the initiation of loving my female body, right? Like I'm a very spiritual being, and I think when I was younger, I was really, anxious about being in my body and being sexual because I had it ingrained into me that to be sexual is to be unsafe or to be asking for it, or, that it would be my fault if I was too sexual if something happened. And so, as I started working with Mary Magdalene, there was a big reclamation of actually, no, it's safe for me to be in my body and to be spiritual, that my sexuality is spirituality, it is sacred. And yeah, there's many practices that she's had me do that were super uncomfortable, but I did them. And she brought me to different teachers to help me evolve. Like she really did bring me to my Tao Tantric teachers. um, I had just gone through a huge training with a woman here in Sonoma County named Marin Bach Antonsen. She's an amazing priestess. I did her priestess training, and it was through there that Mary Magdalene really deeply started awakening more within me and within my meditation and being a guide for me. And so it was through those priestess
Mhm.
practices that she came through. And then, gosh, it was after that, it's like, oh, the Tao Tantric stuff came in, and the jade egg, and the sacred breast massage, and the sacred love making, and the orgasmic manifesting, and the sex magic, and like all the things I feel like Mary Magdalene was a huge part of, because I do believe she was the consort of Jesus, and I think that they were lovers, and I believe that there were codes that they were working together that, the powers that be or whatever weren't comfortable with. So a lot of her story and a lot of her truth was distorted and dismissed and destroyed. So
Yeah, it's very
that's
interesting.
yeah, she's a powerful one, and yeah, yeah, a huge part of my life is being in service to the feminine, and listening to her guidance, and yeah. So, and it's through her too that I re-established a healthy relationship with Jesus, and I'm no longer triggered when you know, I hear of Christianity. I have a ton of friends who are Christian, and there's just a peace now that has come in, and an acceptance and a compassion and a love for all of it. So I'm really grateful for that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think it's really,
Mhm.
especially if you're raised in something like that, so easy to stay angry, and there's a lot of things to be angry about, rightfully. So, centuries of things, but
Yeah,
I also feel like it's important to, like, if you're drawn to connect with those guides like Jesus, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, like if there's an aversion there, there might be something to like investigate. And I've had that also come up with clients like
absolutely.
with like angel energy. I'm like, oh, there's this angelic energy, and they're like, ew, like I don't like that. Which you don't have to do anything, but I
Yeah,
think it's important like to see why we might be scared to look at that. And like I think there's also a
absolutely.
lot of ancestral healing and things like that that can happen when you look at like the practices that your family comes from and things like that too. So,
Definitely. Generally, it's the stuff that we're in resistance to is the stuff that we need.
yeah. Do you find that with clients booking the like Kundalini, like they are kind of a little scared too, also?
Mhm. Oh, definitely. It's interesting because I've had a lot of clients actually cancel last minute because I've had to up my cancellation policy because I do think like there's this initial, ooh, I want to experience that. And
And
they're
they're like,
ready,
wait,
but
I'm
then,
scared.
oh, totally. And it's not a scary experience. I'm a very loving and compassionate person and create really sacred space.
It's like a
So yeah,
mental thing though. It's
totally. And you can't really do it until you're ready. Like, that's the other thing is like you have to be willing to evolve to be able to come. Like, if you are resistant to, I don't know, to any sort of evolution within your being, you're gonna not want to come. You know what I mean? So, whenever there's a big opportunity for transformation or for evolution, our ego will come up and be like, oh, but we've been doing just fine. We've been doing all right. We don't need to do that. That's going to bring up a whole bunch of other stuff, and you're good, you know? And it's like, oh, okay, I hear that. And I want to be courageous. I want more. There's this deeper yearning, this longing that lives within me that is drawing me towards my evolution. And it's like listening to that and trusting that, but also honoring the mind and yeah, and when you know you're ready, you're ready. And it's definitely not as scary as it feel or it seems. It actually is such a beautiful an amazing experience. So, yeah.
yeah, and like you said in the beginning, it's not like you're out of control. I think
No, at any
people,
point you can stop.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, well, thank you so much for doing this with me today.
Thank you. It's such an honor. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you too. Anything else you want to share? Any thoughts before we close out?
Mm, mm. No, I think we all just need to remember that life is magical and that really crappy things are happening all the time, and it should inspire us to birth more love because we're all depleted in the love department and that feeling of belonging. And I don't know, it's through energy healing and just connecting with one another where we begin to feel not so alone. So, yeah, just whoever's watching this, just know that you're loved.
Yes. You are. We love you.
Yeah. Thank you. I love you too.
Thank you so much. And for those listening,
Mm.
again, Feather's info's in the show notes. Book a session, investigate if you feel the call, if you're drawn to do it. Like, I truly believe in that. Like, if we keep hearing about something or we're drawn, we just feel like, oh, that sounds, ex there's something in it for you. So, like, if you
Yes.
hear about something again and again, just start being open to trying it. And then
Go
I think it
for
will
it.
line up. It will line up if it's supposed to happen.
Yes,
Yes. Well, thank
most
you.
definitely. You're
And we will
welcome.
see you guys in
Mm.
the next episode. Bye bye.
Bye.